Hey everyone, welcome to Stuff I Never Learned from a School Book. If you're looking at this bearded one, it must be Monday night, 7 p.m. Central, and I am the host of Stuff I Never Learned from a School Book. Welcome if this is your first time. If you are a repeat offender, welcome back. I'm so happy that you are here. So it is 7 p.m. Central, 8 Eastern, 6 Mountain, 5 Pacific, 2 out in Hawaii, 6 a.m. tomorrow morning out in Indonesia, and about 9 a.m. Tomorrow morning out in Australia. Hello, everybody, and welcome to the show. As usual, I absolutely have on a fantastic guest. This one has been missing from the archives for a while, so we're pulling her back out, dusting her off, and I am lucky enough to actually have her on after a nice long hiatus that she has been on, as she has graced us with being the first show that she's been back on for a while. So everybody, let's say hi to Tonia. Hi, Tonia. How are you?
Hi, everybody. Hi, Tom. It's such a pleasure to be on the show.
Yeah, you too. So everyone's saying hi already. Stuart's popping in from Texas. He's saying hello to everybody.
Hi, everybody.
Miss Nikki's saying hello. Christy's popping in to say hi. Hi, Kathy. And then, of course, Nikki's saying hi to the old man, Stuart, that always talks and gives me crap, which is expected. I appreciate it. It shows love.
Hi, Nicole.
Saying hello to you. She's so excited that you're on here. So
I'm excited, too, because I know we were planning, gosh, it was probably back in January, and then you had gotten ill, and then I was just crazy busy. And I think you and I had some correspondence that wasn't syncing up. And I joke about this because I've had friends tell me, I've been trying to call you and your phone number isn't working, or I've tried to send you an email and you're not responding. And so I think you and I will definitely be talking about what we haven't learned from a school book tonight, because we're going to be diving into parallel realities. And these are things that happen to me regularly when we're just kind of out of sync, you know?
It was really weird because we even lost complete touch with you because you just fell off the face of the earth for a while, which is fantastic because you needed that time to unwind. And Nikki and I are actually talking about that with me for a little bit too. So here we are back on the other side of that. And I'm able to pull you onto the show, which is fantastic. I've been excited about having you on again. Like, it was highlighted on my calendar as Tonia's coming on my show. I think I wrote her down on my personal calendar, my phone calendar, my work calendar, like kind of everywhere I went. I was like, so people are going to want to watch Tonia on my show. So yes, that's kind of how it went. But for those who do not have the pleasure of knowing who you are already, do me a favor, introduce yourself and kind of tell people what you do and how you got started into what you're doing.
Okay, so my name is Tonia Braddock, and I am also known as the Existential Empath. I have a podcast and a YouTube channel. I also work in the quantum realms. So I do quantum healing, hypnosis, as well as EFT tapping, or emotional freedom technique. And so I worked in the healthcare field for nearly 20 years, and I worked in areas of death and loss. So I worked in hospice care as well as organ and tissue donation. So I was working with those as you can see these orbs flying behind me. I just see those. They like to visit when I start talking about them. So I was working with the families who had lost their loved ones in the intensive care units. And as time went on, this was probably 10 years into that job, I started to have really deep dreams, very vivid dreams about some of the donors that I was working with. And I had to work really late nights sometimes in the hospitals because I did education for not only the day shift, but the night shift as well. And so I spent many nights in some of these very old hospitals. Sometimes I even had to review medical records in the morgue because that was the only place that they could put me. And so I got now, even to rewind back, I grew up in a family, not my parents, but my aunt and uncle owned the funeral home in town. So he was the main funeral director in town. And so I would spend some time there at the funeral home. And I was very comfortable around death. It wasn't something that frightened me. It wasn't something that I even questioned. I just was around it a lot. And so, this kind of just transpired through the years of just having a deeper understanding of the other side and understanding that this reality that we're in here, this third dimensional reality, isn't the only reality that we are experiencing on a daily basis. And as I began to, work through that job, I started to get physical ailments that were bothering me, like my back and my shoulders. And I would notice certain things after I would work with a family. I would come home and I would have pain in my body, specifically around areas that maybe the donor had pain. Maybe it was a gunshot wound or something. And I noticed I was picking up on the pain, but I wasn't really consciously aware of this at the time, but subconsciously I was. And then that took me down a whole path of learning that I'm highly an intuitive empath. I can definitely feel the energies around me. I'm very clairsentient, very clear feeling and clairaudient. I can hear things in other realms and whatnot. And so this was something that was the clairvoyance, the actual clear seeing, was very new to me. That wasn't something that I wanted to deal with, especially at the hospital, but I was seeing what I didn't know at the time were walk-in souls. When people would have a cardiac arrest and they would be in there resuscitating, I would see kind of a spirit or a mist or some sort of a textured, mist leave the body, and then they'd resuscitate them and bring them back, bring in a different texture and a different mist. And it was freaking me out, really. So I remember one night I went home and I wrote a letter to my higher self and said, I don't want to see this anymore. I don't want to, I don't want to wake up in the middle of the night and have an apparition at the end of my bed, because that happened a few times and it scared me to death. Right. I was much more comfortable with the feeling aspect and the hearing. I wasn't as comfortable with the seeing, aspect, which I think a lot of us could probably resonate with that, at least in the beginning. I'm okay with it now because I understand it. But at the time, it was very overwhelming. And I was receiving messages from the other side for these families. And I was just putting it off because I didn't really recognize that this was actually a thing. I didn't realize that they knew I could communicate. And so time went on. And then I started to mention some of these to some of the families, because we would do these annual events and the families would show up and I'd tell them, hey, I had a dream about so-and-so. And I'd see their eyes well up, or I'd see their body like, oh, that was information that I needed. And I thought, wait, what? Really?
Yeah.
And so this just kind of transpired. And then, and then I got to a point where I realized that, wow, I've got some pretty powerful energy here that I think I can help to, at least share my experience to help teach others how they can kind of navigate these different energies as well. So that's kind of where we're at. Now, I do work a lot with the subconscious mind. That's what's running 95% of the time in the back of, of what's going on in our lives. And so I do work a lot with people on how to shift their realities, how to shift, their timelines and whatnot. So I do work a lot in those areas too.
Yeah. Well, that's pretty interesting. So I got to tell you, this just happened while you were talking. I instantly had a pressure in my chest. Ooh. And I knew it was someone trying to associate with me, trying to get my attention. And I don't allow them into my chest anymore. So the fact that they tried to enter my chest wasn't happy to me. I mean, I was literally sitting here going, okay, you literally have to go back up into my head, because I'm having such chest pressure. I'm like, nope, this isn't where you get the chance to talk to me. You have to go into my head. Uh-huh. I think it ties to someone that you had helped in the past. Because when you were talking about that, and then
it was probably a heart recipient.
That's when it hit, and I was like, okay, look, I'm like, you need to move upward into my head, and I was actually forcing it up into my head the whole time you were saying it. So my chest pain is gone, and it's in my head, but now it's sending me off to where they're not talking to me, but they're letting me know they're here. So they're listening to you.
Is there any name? Is any information coming through?
No, they're literally just letting me know that they're here, and they're listening to you because you're talking about them. That's
so
all it is.
Oftentimes, I had a heart recipient. His name was Jerry, and
I had that. I had the J.
Okay.
But I didn't know the name. I was like,
is there a color? Do you see a color associated?
I was like Jacob something. But no, I do not have a color. Oh well, no. I say no, but I keep seeing yellow, but I keep saying no.
He was a heart recipient of mine, and I called him my Florida dad because I spent so much time with him, and he had received the heart of a 14-year-old girl. And so when he first received his transplant, he loved the color pink. For some reason, he couldn't get over the color pink. And then when he met the donor family, he went to their home and her whole bedroom was pink. So I was curious if a color was coming through because we called him Pinky.
Because I was like, Jacob, Jack, and I'm like, I don't think this is tied to the same one, but apparently it was. I did not know that. I just had thought I didn't know how many people were coming up and saying hi to me right now.
I worked in that for 20 plus years. We could have thousands.
And that's what I was thinking. I'm thinking, how many people are trying to contact me right now because you're talking about them? So that's why I'm like trying to push someone up out of my heart and into my head. And I'm like, get out of here, move up into here, because this is my space, not yours. This is your space up here. So it's interesting that it was a letter J. I didn't think it was going to be tied to the same people, but apparently it is. But that was all taking place while you were talking about that. I'm like, okay, look.
As I say, when I talk about, because I look at that as a parallel reality for me, because I haven't been doing that for like 6-7 years now, but and when I do talk about it, you can see there will be orbs just bouncing around. I've even talked about it on my podcast and on my YouTube channel, and you'll just see all these orbs, flying around me. So it's kind of funny when I do talk about it. It's like they're like, oh yeah.
Yeah, that's cool. So this is so now you've moved on, and now you've moved up to this stage to where you are, where you run the existential empath. You know what? I even was smart enough to have that right there. See that?
Great. I put it on there because I wasn't sure. Sometimes people forget the.
Nope. I pay very close attention because, as you know, I go out and I make sure everything works ahead of time. So I actually went out to your site. I actually have it up next to me on my other screen. That's why I made sure that I had everything right, because we're going to talk about some of the stuff on your screen that's on here as well that you share on your site. If that's okay with you.
Absolutely.
And I always normally tell people how you and I met, and honestly, it was through
Jessica Jones.
Let's say it was through Jessica, who's the Cryptid Huntress. For those people who don't know Jessica, fantastic woman as well. Go watch her stuff as well. But yeah, she and I she introduced us through basically
her. No, I saw you on her channel, and I said, I need him on my show. Like I think I sought you out through Jessica.
But we ended up meeting up through Jessica's channel. And so that's kind of how you and I tied together, and we've just kind of been running ever since. So it's just kind of nice.
Yeah, because I had you on my show. It was probably about a year ago this time, I would say. It was probably last November, December. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, because I've only been doing this show now for a little under 2 years. So, yeah. So it had to be pretty early because Jessica was about a year into my show. I didn't find her until about a year after I was doing it because I was only doing paranormal. I haven't turned over to the cryptid side or alien UFO or anything else yet. I was still only doing paranormal. So when I decided to jump that ship and invite everybody on, Jessica was actually my first outside of paranormal person to come on.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So Jessica owns that title. Right there.
Jessica owns a lot of titles.
Yeah, right. Yeah. But no, I always like to tell the audience how we met. So they kind of go, because a lot of people are like, well, because a lot of people know that I end up finding people simply through energies.
Yes.
Which is fantastic with what you do, because it kind of ties into it. Because I can go to local stuff that's happening here, Holistic Fest, whatever else, or I can see your picture on Facebook or YouTube or anything else, and I can pull an energy from you on what kind of person you are based off of just that image.
That is amazing.
A lot of people, like a lot of people will meet and they get that first impression. Mm-hmm. Mine really comes from your picture. I get the idea and I have the complete understanding of who you are simply from a picture. And if I'm still a little hazy on it, that's when I turn into what I call Facebook stalking, and I start looking at some of your stuff. And I'm not really doing it to delve deeper. I'm really just using it to confirm what my first initial feeling was off that image.
That is fascinating.
Yeah, so that's one of my unique abilities that I have learned to develop pretty well.
I haven't even really tried that, Tom, looking at a photo and picking up. I've been, when I lived in Florida, I had gone to a psychic, and it was actually about Jerry, which is funny because he had just passed.
Yeah.
And I had gone to a psychic and she told me to bring a photo of him. And so that was the first time. Now I will say I do have the ability, I forget what it's called, where I can touch items and pick up on the energy. I forgot what it's called. It starts with a T.
Yeah, I don't remember either, but yeah, I know exactly what you're talking about. Which is funny.
Yeah.
Which is funny because I don't pick up loved ones like the psychic did that you went to visit. I don't pick up like loved ones that have passed on when I hold on to pictures. I can look at that picture and tell you what that person was like in life, but I won't get message from them when they've passed.
So you pick up on the essence of them.
They pick up, they literally just come talk to me like I'm talking to you. When they've passed, they'll just walk up and go, like, kick open a door and go, here I am, let's talk. And a lot of psychics will tell you, or a lot of mediums will tell you, hey, when I'm doing this, there you go, psychometry.
Yes.
Thanks, Stuart, appreciate it. But a lot of people get like pictures or symbols. They'll tell you, I get a symbol to represent what I'm supposed to be telling you when this loved one has passed. I literally don't. That person literally comes in and talks to me just like you're talking to me now.
Wow.
And I'm like, holy crap. And the people are like, I haven't heard that. I've always heard pictures, symbols, something, but never just a conversation. And I'm like, no,
you're in that frequency where you can see them, and I'm in the frequency where I can feel and hear them. I'll hear someone come up behind me and start yammering in my ear, or I'll feel a pain or I'll feel a sensation, but I don't necessarily see them standing there. Like,
and mine is kind of both, and it has to be because so sometimes they won't show themselves to me, but they'll start talking to me. But once they start talking to me, I can see what they look like once they start talking to me.
Wow.
So I can instantly pull them. They're trying to hide from me. They can't. Once they start talking to me, I can go, oh, I know what you look like. They're like, wait, I'm hiding from you. Like, right. Let's
try.
So we go through that a lot with a lot of the spirit, but a lot of the times why I have to hear them and not see them is because they're and this is where we're going to go later on the subject, is because I can hear and contact, and they can contact me, people. And the weirdest part is I don't think they have all passed. I think some of them are still alive still.
Really?
But it's people from other dimensions. So I have a dimensional contact as well, where I can hear the people from other dimensions talking to me. And it's a totally different feeling. Everyone who talks to me here comes through my head. Anyone that talks to me through dimensionally talks through my chest, like across my shoulders. And I know that's where the difference lies. So I can talk to them. And I don't think everybody I talk to through dimensional is past. So,
well, if you look at the concept of parallel realities, there is no past and there is no future. It's only in the now moment. And those parallel realities, the way I explain it, it's like, say you're watching a television program on channel 2. You know that there are thousands of other programs running at 8 p.m. at the same time, but you're not watching them. But you've tuned into the frequency of channel 2. And so, but it doesn't mean all those other channels aren't playing programs. That's very similar to how parallel realities work. So you've tuned into a certain frequency of a certain timeline, but yet you're tuning in to, maybe there's, and someone else is watching channel 4 in the bedroom and someone else is watching channel 6 in another room. You're tuning in.
Here's the interesting part is we'll you're saying from a different timeline, but they're numerous. I don't have
there's infinite quantum timelines. Yeah.
I don't have this one channel I'm tuned into, which is funny because I have a lady who stays with me. Her name is Mary. And she is from another dimension, but she has passed. I know she has passed. We have had this discussion. But then I have other people that have reached out to me across my chest, and they'll talk to me, and I'm like, are you from the same timeline as, or from the same dimension as Mary? And they're like, no. And I'm like, okay, interesting. Are you from the same time? And they're like, no. And I'm like, are you dead? And they won't talk. And I'm like,
interesting.
Interesting. So, yeah, that's been few and far between when they contact me from other dimensions. It's only happened a couple of times, but or I should say now, but it's interesting the way they work because they hide more from me than people that died in this realm and what I can see when they start talking.
I wonder why that is. Are they human or are they a different being or both? Or
I don't know, simply because I understand them as if they're speaking English to me. So I don't know if I am instantly just translating whatever it is into English for myself. If I have that weird connection that sometime back in my past, one of my starseed connections or whatever else, I know that language, but it just sounds English to me right now.
Yeah, and I do that because I speak light language, and it will come through I'll speak it and I'll hear it, but it'll come through in English in my mind.
Yeah. And because that's when I speak with elementals, they're not speaking to me like you and I are talking. They're talking to me just like I'm talking to you, but it's not that language.
Yeah.
But I understand it as it is English. But when I ask them, like, what is your name? Their names in no way, shape, or form come through with anything that I could ever pronounce, much less try to come up with.
So we do that because I'm on a Sasquatch research team here in North Idaho, Eastern Washington. And so me and one of my teammates, we go out and we will hear the Sasquatch will mind speak with us, and the elementals are big time, the tree people, all of these, and their names, they laugh at us. I can hear them giggling at us because we're trying to pronounce their names and they are just unpronounceable sometimes.
Right. Yeah. So the ones that do give me names, they're like, well, just call me this. And I'm like, okay. So I'm like, I can do that because that makes a whole lot more sense to me than whatever the heck you just said was that I don't even think was a language at all. A bunch of beeps and squeaks. What the hell was that? So yeah. So that's kind of interesting because it's funny how so many things have already happened since you started talking, and how many things are tying into what I experience, and that it sounds like you experience the same thing. We just don't know we're both experiencing them,
Exactly. And there's times when I'll be out. So I'm very, like I said, I can feel and hear very easily. Now she can see. And she's a seer. And so it's really fun because I'm like, oh, I feel something. And she's immediately like, it's standing right over there. And I'm like, oh, cool, but it's almost like I want us to mold together so I can see it and she can feel it, because it's just this really cool experience that we're separate, humans, but yet it would be really cool to come together to be able to experience it all at one time.
Yeah. When the twin powers activate. Yep.
Yes.
Yeah, exactly. So Jason's saying, him and his boo went saw Matt Frazier, the medium, the other night. It was a great time. So cool.
That's awesome.
So Jason, did you get a message relayed to you? I'm curious about that. So people don't know, Jason is actually runs another paranormal team. And he's a fantastic guy. And well, I'm actually going to bring him on again later on too. But really quick, I did also want to bring this on because Nikki posted this. This is a compliment to you, young lady, since she follows you religiously. She says, if you don't know Tonia and her existential empath, go watch her on YouTube or any of her other sites. Her videos, blogs, etc. are amazing and so informational. Tonia, I love watching and listening to you and all of your wonderful knowledge. Yes.
Thank you.
That's stuff that we're going to get into here later, because I know some of the stuff that she's been using is stuff that you talk about on your site. So Sylvie's asking if we can have your links.
Yep,
So
it should be right under. Yep.
Yeah, right under her name here, the existentialempath.com. Hold on a second. I will do this again too.
All of my YouTube channel, podcasts, everything is on that website. So once you're on there, you'll be able to find, and any products I talk about later on in the show, whatever, it's all on the website.
All right. So as I normally try to do, right here, folks, popping up in your messages. So that's on my Facebook, my YouTube, and my Twitch. I just put her link. So that way, anyone that's watching it live or anyone who's going to watch it recorded can go out to our comments right now and see all of your existential empath in all three of those locations. So yes. So Nikki says, I don't know about religiously. I've been off of listening lately, but.
And that's funny you say that, Nikki, because my show is multi-dimensional, and you'll notice that. I could be talking about physical healing, emotional healing, mental healing, spiritual healing, and it's all based off of frequency. So there are times when people are really binging my show in certain aspects. Maybe they have a physical ailment and they'll binge all the physical shows, but then they aren't tuning into the other ones because they aren't ready yet. They aren't there yet. And so that's very common. I hear that often from people that say, you know, I binged your show for a few months because I was having a back problem or whatnot. But now I'm dealing with some, so I'm learning about the subconscious mind. So now I'm binging the subconscious mind shows, you know, so very multidimensional.
Every single person on here who doesn't watch you goes, how in the heck does what she do fix my back? So let me give a quick little overview and we'll start discussing this. We'll start getting into all the stuff you actually do. But really quick, if you go out to the site, the front page is her about. And what I love about your site is scattered throughout. So if you don't want to read a whole bunch of stuff, people like I don't and everything else, blah, 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 words. She has like 20 and 30-minute video clips that she posts on YouTube on her pages. So you can go out there and click on these clips and listen to her explain what she does, how she does it, and what it's good for. And I was out there today, and we were talking about this earlier when behind the scenes about her video clips that are on here. Because I sat here and just started listening to them. And and I was reading as well. I always do. Again, I the nicest way I put this is I Facebook stalk people very, very well. So I was reading about everything while I was listening to it. A lot of people can't do that. They have to either listen or they have to read. They can't do both at the same time. But I was doing both. But you can go out if you don't want to. If you don't really want to like click on and get a session with her right now, or whatever else, or you're not sure, go watch the videos. This will.
Yeah, I put a lot of free stuff out there to learn. Yeah,
a lot of free stuff. You can go out there and listen to these and what she does and how she does it, what's available to you, and then you'll be like, oh, okay, I need to start following Tonia. This makes sense. Cool. But just from the front page alone, you'll be able to get 2 videos right off the bat, and all together you're listening to about 50 minutes of worth of information, which is fantastic. So, with that said. Let's go into what you do, because we've had enough squirrel moments already. We'll come back to squirrel moments here in a little bit, but let's go into what you do. I want to start with something that Nikki uses, which I think will help a lot of people, and that is the tapping.
Okay.
So if you can explain what the tapping is, basically the premise behind it. Mm-hmm. And basically how it works and how it'll help others.
Yeah. So EFT tapping, or emotional freedom technique, is an actual technique. if you are familiar with acupuncture, which is where they use needles to put in certain acupressure points, EFT is a needleless modality. So basically what you're doing is you're tapping on certain acupressure points throughout the body, and you're speaking things out. Okay. So what's happening is as you tap, you're using one side of the brain, one hemisphere of the brain. And while you're speaking, you're using the other side of the brain. So what that's doing is it's creating neural pathways. So it could be that you're struggling with something because you have a neural pathway that is creating that in your subconscious mind. You have a loop going on. Now, I struggled with obsessive compulsive disorder for years, okay? But I watched my mom and my grandmother struggle with OCD for years. From the time we're born to roughly age 7 are our observatory years. That's when we're in a theta brainwave state, okay? So that's when we're picking up all of the things that we're learning. And majority of us are living our 5-year-old selves. We just don't realize it in our adult life. We're fearful of things at age 40 that we learned when we were 5 from our mom or our dad, right? So mom screamed, saw a spider, and now we're fearful of a spider when we're 40, right? So these are things that we don't necessarily even recognize that these are what are called programs, just like a computer is running a program. It reminds me of, when you have to clear your history or your cache on your computer. That's what we have going on in our subconscious. So our subconscious is running 95% of the time, and our conscious mind is running roughly 5%. So if you think about it, have you ever been driving? Say you're driving to a doctor's appointment, but it's the same route that you would take to go to work. And you're driving along and you get off the same exit that you do every single day and you head to work and you say, oh crap, I am going to the doctor's office. I took the wrong exit. That's your subconscious mind because it's running on autopilot. You have taken that routine every single day to get to work. And now you're going somewhere different. And you aren't consciously aware of it because your subconscious took over and sent you to work and you're supposed to go to the doctor's office. Now, I know that's happened to me several times. So what's happening with EFT tapping is we're actually pulling that program to the surface we're pulling that file from the 95% of the subconscious mind to the 5% of the conscious mind. We're bringing it to the conscious awareness and we are releasing it. We're reprogramming it. So we're bringing that more negative aspect that some may call it negative, but it's all neutral, it's just energy. We're bringing that energy that's not serving you anymore to the conscious mind to reprogram it in a more suitable way for you. So oftentimes with OCD, my biggest issue was being a perfectionist. Okay. So I was taught at a very young age that I had to be a perfectionist because my mom was taught she had to be a perfectionist. My grandmother was taught she had to be a perfectionist, right? So this semi, so to speak, program got passed down and I picked it up and I learned it and I just kept chugging along with it. And over the course of time, when I worked in healthcare, one of my biggest issues was germs, of course, because I was working in hospitals. And so I was really paranoid about germs. And with OCD, there's also an underlying factor of cleanliness. If you're not perfect, you're dirty, there's a dirtiness factor to it. And so when you begin to peel away the layers of the onion, and that's what EFT tapping will do, you can get to the root cause of why is this happening. And oftentimes it's trauma, abandonment, rejection. Those are usually the ones. There's some sort of an issue there that happened between the time you were born and roughly age 7 that, maybe for me, my mom accidentally left me at school one time and I felt abandoned. She forgot. She was busy mom, and I was there with my teacher and I thought I was left behind. And so that creates a little program, right? A little program that, mom forgot about me. I was abandoned. I'm unloved. All these things that we tell ourselves in our self-talk. Well, that self-talk is what creates the hologram. Okay. So we've got this we've got an internal reality that we're creating. I am this, I am that, I am whatever you're saying. and it's projecting itself out into our external reality. And that's exactly what we're seeing. And so when I do, whether it's quantum healing or EFT tapping, what it's doing is it's changing the internal dialogue, the internal reality, and then that will eventually shift the external reality as well. So that hologram will shift. It's almost like a record player, the way I explain it. You know how most people will have a record player playing and then it will start to skip. Most people will pick up that needle and move it and continue on. What EFT is doing is it's actually taking that record off and putting on a whole new record, an unskippable record, you know, on there. So that's, and it's very simple. It's very easy. It's kind of like Simon Says, you know, in a session, it's, you know, I'm guiding you through it and you're repeating it. And it's funny because there's many times I've had people, I can tell, just like you could tell with my Twitch, you know, pulling my hair back on my, you know, on my videos, I can tell where people, like they have a block or they don't want to bring something up because I can tell in the way their body responds or how they'll start stuttering, or maybe they'll bite their tongue and not want to say something. And I'm like, oh, that I can kind of sense where the root of the issue is. And that's where we can kind of dive in a little bit deeper. Yeah.
So I, without going too much into it, because I know it's the tapping, I've watched Nikki do it, but I don't ask her questions. I'm just curious about something. What's going on, Max? How you doing, brother? When you're doing the tapping, like say, is there a certain tapping location for different problems? Or like say if I'm worried about, let's say I have an issue with anxiety. Am I always going to tap the same spot for anxiety? Or am I going to alter positions for anxiety? Or if I have anxiety and then I also have like a depression, are those two different spots I'm tapping, or are there multiple spots I'm tapping? I mean, how much of this do I have to put to memory?
No, that's a good question. And the reality is it's individual. It's individual. So I start with the 7-point tapping. It's where you start at the karate chop point and then you move around like a question mark kind of on your face and go down. 9 times out of 10, you know where people get stuck? Right here at the heart. Right. So I will just stay there. I stay there. And I read the person just similarly to you, you know, when you read people, I read where they need it. If there's a tender point on your body when you're tapping and it feels tender, that's an area that needs to move the energy out. So oftentimes they'll naturally guide me to where they'll just kind of, their eyes will look up and they'll stay in one spot and I just let them stay there, you know, and you can use either hand, you can use both hands. You don't even have to tap. You can hold. I've had some kids that have autism and they don't want to tap. It's too sensory overload for them. Yeah. So we just hold. We hold and they say the statement, because really what you're doing is you're just just touching on the acupressure points there. Yep. And there is much more in-depth tapping where you would do each finger and you'd have them look to the side. And I don't usually do that. And I also have incorporated different techniques that I've kind of learned, like rubbing the sides of your arms when we move through the I choose statements, which are the reprogramming statements. And people will just start bawling their eyes out because it's almost like a sense of self-care, you know, that they're hugging themselves, and there's something to be said about that. And because like I said, majority of it stems back from trauma, abandonment, or rejection. And so when we have those projections out, then what are we doing? We're attracting partners that reject us and abandon us. So we're attracting situations, maybe a job we get rejected at, because these are programs that are running in the background, you know, very similar to the iPhone when you have to close out all your apps in the background, you know, you have all those running. Our bodies are like that too, just like a computer. Yeah.
Yeah, very true. So that's good. And that's something that people need to know, that you offer this on your site, but this is something that you can teach online. They don't have to be face to face with you. This is something they can do
Yes.
online. So if they're interested in something like that or just learning about it.
And I do offer, because some of my clients were like, I don't need a session. I know the tapping, but what do I say? So I actually created, you can purchase digital downloaded scripts on my website very inexpensively, that if you know the tapping points, then you have the script that you can tailor for yourself, that you can work through, whether it's anxiety, abundance blocks, grief and loss, weight loss. I have a variety of them. And I also have coupled them with a journal. So that way you can journal through them too, if it's something that you, because here's the thing, we all heal ourselves. We are the healer, right? I'm just sharing my tools and techniques that I've learned, and not everyone needs a session. A lot of people are already to the point where they're like, I don't need a session. I just want to know what to say, and so here you go. Here's an option for you, and everybody's different in their healing journey. And I don't always use EFT tapping myself anymore. I will say, one time I was flying and I would get panic attacks when I would fly. And I tell you what, I just tapped my thymus and kept saying, I am calm, I am safe. I visualized myself landed, and everybody's safe. And I worked my way through that. There's another instance. I went into, what do they call it? It's is it a barometric pressure chamber? It's what they do for scuba diving, right? So it was maybe 2 or 3 years ago. It was during COVID. I had some lung stuff going on, and I had a friend tell me, go sit in this oxygen capsule for an hour and you're going to feel amazing. Yeah. Well, I didn't realize, but when I got in that oxygen capsule and they zipped it up and blew it up, had all the oxygen pumping, I had a massive panic attack, claustrophobia. I was losing it, Tom. I was like, oh my God, I got to get out of here. I was freaking out. And I couldn't get out because it takes about 10 minutes for them to decompress it to let you out. Well, the only tool I had was tapping, and I just breathed and tapped. I'm safe. I'm safe. I kept repeating it. I am calm. My body's relaxed, like over and over. And maybe within 10 minutes, I fell asleep, and I fell asleep for the rest of the hour, but had I not had that tool, I don't know what I would have done. I really don't know. So this is a tool that if you can do at any time. Right. Yeah. You're in the middle of you're out paranormal researching and something is freaking you out and you're there, you got to tap through it, whatever. This is an easy tool that you can have that is right on your body, once you learn it.
Yeah. So Stuart states something about weight loss, and Nikki had to reprimand him for saying, help Nicole. He wasn't saying help Nicole with this. He's saying help Nicole. We need help with this. Like, he's asking Nicole for help. You actually need to be asking Tonia for this, because this actually does help with weight losses too. This isn't just for anxiety or like emotional ties like that. It can help. Well, it is emotional, but it's tied to something, and it even works with weight loss and everything else. You can use the EFT tapping for weight loss, for anxiety, for pretty much anything.
Anything, really. Yeah, anything, because you're just reprogramming it. So majority of the time, why we hold on to weight is for protection. There's some sort of a protective mechanism there. We were hurt in the past. There was something that we want to protect ourselves. Yeah. So usually when, you're tapping for weight loss, a lot of it has to do with being safe. Okay. So finding that safety within you and realizing that you don't need that protection anymore, whatever it is, but getting to the root of why did you create that protective barrier around you? What age did you notice you started gaining weight? For me, it was right after my divorce. I was really abused in my marriage. And during my marriage, I was blowing up. I was gaining tons of weight. And it's funny, I'm speaking at a, online event called What We Crave. And I'll share this on my show. I'm waiting for her to release the date, but it's going to be all free online. And it's for those of you out there that want to lose weight. It's going to be specific to you. And like I said, it'll be free. And it's going to be all these different people sharing different tools and techniques on how to manage your weight and lose weight. So I will have that. I'm hoping to have that in the next couple of weeks, and I'll release that on my YouTube channel. So you'll know when it is. Yeah.
Yeah, you have to let me know what it is so I can go out and grab it. And I'll throw it onto my site as well so people know to go out and look at it. See, and Nikki even says, she said, we were out eating and Tom caught me tapping my temple. I didn't even realize I was doing it while I was eating.
Yes. And a lot of us do this too, right? Like when we're stressed, that's one of the tapping points, right there. So we naturally will do that, or we'll go like this, so we know as a human species what to do. It's just, we don't have the understanding as to why we do it.
So Janet has a question. What's funny is that I have the answer to this one because the voice jumped in and gave me this answer, which is pretty funny, but sure show. So Janet says, I have a question. Is it normal to feel emotional or sadness when you're unblocking the part of your body when you're tapping?
Yes. Very much so. There's times when my grandmother passed, this was a couple years ago, my grandmother passed. And so the grief script that I actually have on my website was the one that I created when my grandmother passed. Yeah. And I was just, I couldn't even tap here because I had so much snot and I had so much emotion coming through my body, because what you're doing is you're releasing energy, right? Yeah. So our emotions get trapped or lodged in our body, and they could be the size of a pin to the size of a volleyball or basketball, it really just depends. And so, each of our organs holds different emotions in it. So depending on what you're tapping on and you hit a certain area, then yes, that is very common to feel. I've even had people burp. I've had people fart. I've had people giggle. I've had people sob their eyes. I've had people scream. I've had people cough. Oftentimes coughing happens because many of us have a very closed throat. I know my mom would even say to me, don't speak unless you're spoken to, right? So many of us would close off that throat. And so there's times I've tapped with people and they're just hacking, and then I'm hacking because I'm transmuting it, So that's very common. Good question. Very common. You could basically have a variety of emotions that come up. Yes.
Yeah. Nikki says she finds herself yawning.
Yawning is very common. I can tell when someone is moving energy, when they get really tired and they yawn. I've had people come to me and say, I have anxiety, it's at a 10. And then we get down, we start tapping. And then at the end of the session, they're like, I don't even really know why I booked this session. Right. Oh, that's a good sign. We just moved some energy, because that's really all it is. It's just bottled up energy.
Right. I was just saying, a lot of it could be from past that you don't know. It is that subconscious. Yes. And you release it, and it's a subconscious release, and you don't know you're doing it. And then all of a sudden, you're flooded with this emotion, and you still are like, why am I emotional? What just happened? And then all of a sudden, you realize, oh, I'm releasing this energy that's been trapped in me forever, or it's a subconscious thing that came from generations past, and I've just been learning it, and I never even paid attention to it, and now all this emotion is flooding out to me, whether it's happy, sad, like you said, whatever it is, it's an emotion that just sets off.
It is.
So that's why
we just want to observe it. That's really, we're not attached to it. We're just observing that emotion and letting it move through. Yeah.
Yeah. And that's why I was nodding when the person asked the question. I said, I think you had this answer because my spirit guides are like, hey, you know this. And I'm like, yeah, sure.
Here's the kicker. We all know this. We're just being reminded of it.
No. I'm like, yes, I know this, but it's her show. Just let her talk. Shut up.
No. Hey, chime in. I think it's awesome because I don't want to have to talk the whole time.
Well, they hear me all the time. They don't want to hear me talk.
Well, the neat thing, I'm going to be doing an episode tomorrow on trapped emotions in the lungs, but I just did one on the back, and I'm going to be doing one in the breasts as well, because I have a lot of women that come to me with breast problems, so I thought, why not do a few episodes, on this stuff. But our body speaks to us very, very literally. So if you're having an issue in some area of your body, ask yourself, what does that do for me, right? So say you have a knee problem, okay? What does the knee do for you, right? It bends, it supports you, it's flexible, it creates movement, right? So if you have a knee problem, ask yourself, where am I not being flexible? Where am I being stubborn? Maybe, where am I not moving in my life? Am I stagnant? What's going on? So these are questions that you can ask yourself. First of all, figure out where your pain is, and then ask yourself, what does the body do? What part of that body part What does that do for me? And then apply it to the emotional aspect.
Yeah.
And then you can say, okay, for example, the neck. I get this all the time. I have neck pain. Okay, who's being a pain in your ass? Who's being a pain in your neck, right? It's like if you have pain, there's something going on in your body that's causing that pain. Okay. Yeah. And it could be emotional, and it could be mental, or it could be physical. That's why I talk about the multi-dimensional healing aspects on my show.
Nikki says, or maybe you just fell on it really, really hard and it's deeply bruised or damaged. She did when she fell off the scaffold. And And
that, like I said, it could be physical too. Yeah. So if you've exhausted all physical efforts and it's not getting better, then it's probably emotional. And if it's not that, then it's mental. What are you telling yourself? I am in pain. Everything you follow after the word I am is what you are creating in your hologram. That's what you're creating in your reality. So I am in pain. Every single day you're going to wake up because you're running that program. Change it. I am healthy. I am alive. I am flexible. I am healed. I am, change your story, change your narrative. That narrative that you're running in the subconscious is what's projecting itself out in your external reality.
So I'm going to show Nikki's comment really here. It's pretty funny, but then I'm going to ask a question about it too. She says, "Oh shit, I always have neck pain. I must have a ton of pain in my so, but Nikki, I'm going to share some information with her and with the audience about you, and I want to get your take on this because we're talking about the neck pain, we're talking about what happens and everything else, but then you're also saying sometimes this reaches back to maybe something you don't even know about. Well, Nikki has a lot of neck and shoulder pain. And she always keeps herself protected with her shoulders. And she has had a past life kind of regression reading. And one of her past lives was the fact that she was a slave and they kept chains around her neck to hold her in place. So even if your situation isn't technically the here and now or in this life, could she be trying to understand something that happened in her past, even though it's not this past, it's another past, and she's just trying to release it?
Could be. And so, what I've learned in my quantum sessions is there are no past lives. It's all parallel lives. Okay. Right. So everything is happening right now. It's just you in another timeline. Right. So I had this very similarly. I had did a quantum session with someone who was a dragon. Okay. So they were a dragon in another reality and they were chained. Mm-hmm. And I released that chain and she coughed for about 20 minutes. I mean, so yes, this could be something that's going on where, Nikki in another reality is chained.
Dealing with this,
that's causing that. Now, the first thing that came to my mind when you said she has neck and shoulder is burdens, carrying burdens. So oftentimes when we hunch our shoulders like that, you think of someone who's carrying a lot of baggage, right, on their shoulders. So there could be, whether it's this life or another timeline, she's carrying a lot of burdens or a lot of baggage. So releasing that, you can do that through meditation. Just ask your higher self to show you the way. Show me where I'm holding on to baggage. Show me where I'm holding on to burdens, and releasing it and giving yourself permission to let that go and allowing yourself to release that.
Yeah, I purposefully find myself really like pulling, like now I even purposely really try to pull my shoulders down because I know mine, because mine is literally for what I used to do for a living, but because I was always protected. So now I'm forcibly pulling my shoulders down a lot. I sit with my arms down and my shoulders down like this, because normally I'd be up here. You wouldn't even see I have a neck. Not that I have much of one anyways, but you really wouldn't be able to tell because I normally sit like this. So I really forced myself to drop my shoulders to release that, because I knew that I was very much and it was hurting me a lot. It was hurting my neck and my shoulders. So I was trying to release that. And Sylvie's like, could it also possibly be you just have bad?
There's a thing we're seeing with the younger generation that it's called tech neck. It's because they're looking down all the time like this, and with their phones or their computers. And so being consciously aware to roll your shoulders back. And what does that do when you stand tall and strong? It brings confidence back into yourself, right? So usually when we're tucked down, we want to be hidden, right? We want to hide from the world. We want to, stay small. stand up, right? Stand back, just really work on that, pulling your chin up. And believe me, I'm 5'11". They called me too tall Tonya in school. And if you look at my kindergarten photos, I'm towering over all the kids. And so for many years, I wanted to be small. I wanted to hover down. I would, kind of pull myself. And my grandmother, she was 6'1" or 6'2". She would be like, Tonya, she'd, kind of pull my shoulders back and be like, you stand tall. Be proud of your height. And so had I not had her, I probably would have had hunched shoulders, because that was something that I was picked on as a kid, and so that's a great question to ask that, Sylvie, because that is definitely, like I said, if you've ruled out the physical, then look at the emotional, and then rule that out, and then look at the mental, and then look at the spiritual aspects. It's all very multidimensional in your healing.
All right. So,
and Tom, I want to say, I remember when you were on my show, this hasn't left my mind. And like I said, you were on my show over a year ago. We were talking about you going into different homes and clearing the space and being able to move out heavier energies, denser energies. And you had made a comment that I don't feel like I have to protect myself because I am the light. Yeah. And that struck a chord in me, because I remember at the time I thought, oh man, I wish I could feel that way. I wish I could feel that I was the light, instead of feeling like, oh, I got to pack shungite in my pocket and I got to sage and I got to do all this stuff. And I don't do that anymore, because now I do know I am the light. When, what happens when you're in a dark room and you're scared, you turn on the light, right? And so this is an area where I think many of us have this feeling that we have to protect ourselves, whether it's in this reality or other ones, that there's this massive need of protecting. And like, remember when I said, I am, and everything you say after that, when you feel the need to be protected, what you're telling your subconscious is, I am being attacked. I am being attacked, right? So what's the subconscious going to do? It's going to create more experiences for you to be attacked. It's going to put that out into your external reality. And so if you can envision yourself as the light going in there, then that pulls your power back. That brings you, it's almost like, what was that? Guardians of the Galaxy. I don't even remember. It was one of those shows, and she was the Phoenix, and I thought she was just fantastic. Like, she had this fiery energy, and she lit up the room, when she came in, and I thought, that's me. That's me. When I see myself, going into an area where I might feel that I would hunker down, or I might want to be hidden or meek, I stand in my power, and I'm the Phoenix. I rise. I am the light. And if we can all think that way, then we don't need that protection, because protection, what does that do? That puts you in a vibration of fear, right? Because you feel like you're being attacked. And so you really opened my eyes. Literally, I saw the light when you said that, and that's something that really stuck with me, because you had like this, I had this aha moment when you shared that, because I thought, why do I feel like when I go out on these, paranormal excursions, that I have to protect myself? No, I am the light. They're running from me.
A lot of people think I'm crazy because the shield I wear on myself, which is me, is skin tight. A lot of people put a bubble around them, and mine is my own suit of armor that I have on me, because I welcome whatever that being is to get as close to me as humanly possible, because I'm not afraid of it. But I want to know what it's doing, but I know it can't harm me. So I'm like, cool, get as close to me as you want. I want to know what you're doing, and I have no fear of you at all, because you can't hurt me. And that's how I always am in life. And when I go out on investigations, anything else, that's me. And that's good. That I'm very happy that that's something that you took with you, and I really do hope other people pick that up. But yeah, I mean, I am very much, to me, it's just because I've always been alpha. I always have been. And that just ties into it. And when I started doing all the spiritual work, my alpha just went straight over the spiritual work.
Yeah.
And it's just always stayed with me. So that's just, and a lot of people are like, you're nuts to let something get that close to you. Why? Why are you afraid of it? What do you think it's going to do if you're...
Because you're the more powerful being. You're the light. Yeah.
Right. So I'm like, what are you afraid of if you have that and you have that knowledge in yourself, why are you afraid to let them get that close? Why is there a fear of there at all? I enjoy it because they get really close. And a lot of times I've had stuff put their hands on me and they're like, why aren't I hurting you?
You're like Bella on Twilight. She was she could put her shield. She was a shield.
Yeah, but I'm like, what do you think you're trying to do to me? All you're doing is put handprints all over me. What are you doing? So that's good. So thank you. But now time to switch gears again. We talked about the EFT. Now you need to talk about the quantum healing hypnosis.
Yeah. So quantum healing hypnosis, people get a little weird about the word hypnosis, but really it's more just quantum healing meditation. I'm guiding you through a very deep meditation to get you into a theta state. So theta state is where we can reprogram things. Okay. So like I said, between the time we're born and age 7, we're in that theta state. We're in the observatory years. Mm-hmm. And so what I do is I guide you through different types of meditations, and all of this is online. All my sessions are via Zoom, very easy. So you're in your own bed, you're in your own space. And I guide you based off of where you want to go. Some people want to, like I said, meet their dragon. That was intense. I met someone's dragon and my dragon met their dragon. It was wild. I just had recently a client who she was having some abundance blocks. And so we went back to a version of her in her childhood where she saw her mom in the bedroom just counting through change and counting through money and telling her she didn't have enough. And she forgot this. This was something that was in her life. And so we were able to go in and have a conversation with her mom and her inner child about this and be able to heal some of these movie kind of sets, a film strip, right. It's like a scene, and go in there and revise the scene. So a lot of the quantum healing, we can go back and do revision. So say you had a situation in your past that you're playing over and over in your present reality, and we can go back and revise it to what you really wanted it to play out to. What that does is it shifts your timeline. So then you'll shift into another parallel reality. So that's what's really cool. That when you're working in the quantum field, there's infinite quantum possibilities. Yeah. It really is. So whether it's, I go in and I heal a lot too. We remove heavy metals, parasites, implants, blah, 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 a whole bunch of stuff that we go in and heal. And then you, as the client, kind of guide me, where we're going. So I just kind of take you through the scene, and you're going to go through and see what comes up, in your session. And so I've had a variety of different, like I said, I never know what to expect. It's really insane. I've had where the angels have come in and literally my hair blew, like it was crazy, so it really just depends on what happens. Is my energy my higher self harmonizes with their higher self, and it brings through healing for both of us, which is super cool, in the process.
So, okay, I got to share this with you because I've been fighting this in my head for a while, and your explanation right there, I think, has solidified my thought process. Since I was little, and even now, when I dream, so I know my difference between my visions and my dreams.
Okay.
When I have a vision, I can see everything perfectly clear. The people, the faces, I can read, I can tell time, I can see numbers. In dreams, you're not supposed to be able to. Sometimes you can see the people's faces, but you cannot read like newspaper articles or anything else in a dream. And you can't tell times because that side of your brain, the intellectual side of your brain,
there's no linear time when you're dreaming. Right. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So that doesn't work. But when I'm in my visions or when I'm in my dream state, either one of them, I have a very unique ability to stop myself and adjust what I'm looking at and change it to what I want it to be.
So you're already shifting timelines. That you're quantum leaping. That's what you're doing.
And so my thought process, because I've always thought that I'm like, am I doing? So what am I? And my thought process is I'm not really dreaming, but I am visiting another place of myself. Mm-hmm. And I'm adjusting that place to what I want it to look like and what I want it to be compared to what it's telling me it's supposed to be.
Yes.
So I'm seeing it way, and I'm like, no, I don't like that. And the coolest part I like the fact I can do that. But the coolest part is I can wake up and I can go back to sleep and I can put myself right back where I left off.
Yes.
And start adjusting at that point too.
That's really cool. And I learned that from a Native American, because I said, I want to, if you wake up from a really awesome dream or vision, and then you want to get back into it, you say, I am the dream. I am the dream. I am the dream. And that's supposed to bounce you right back into the dream. And I've done it a few times. I've been able to get back in there.
I just lay down and I'm like, all right, put me back where I was.
That's
and then I'll
so cool.
put me back where it was. So you saying that confirms what I was thinking I was doing already.
And you are, and I do this so you don't need a quantum healing session to do this. You can do this in your own, and this is the reality, Tom, is I'm just teaching people tools so you can take these on your own and run with them, So, but a lot of people don't even understand it from square one. So like, I just want a session so I can learn one time and then I'll revise it myself. But I've done this in meditation. It's like, okay, I had this experience that was unpleasant and it keeps running in my mind. I'm going to go back to right before that experience and I'm going to revise it to exactly what I want it to be. And so what you're doing is you're just, if you've got all these parallel realities lined up, like baklava, I don't know. I'm trying to think like a good analogy. I don't know. Like you've got all these very thin layers, right? And so sometimes you'll just shift it very minusculely, or you could shift it significantly. It really just depends on where you're going. And that's why, you could wake up and you have you'll notice that the people around you are treating you differently, or someone, I don't know if you've had this happen where you have maybe had a situation with someone and then years pass and then you go back and talk to them about it again and they don't remember it the same way that you remember it, right?
Yeah. Or it's a different way they remember it. Yeah.
Yeah. Because the past is really just a memory, right?
Yeah. And that's what I kept thinking, because the strangest part about that for me is I don't feel I've ever had my true awakening until like 2 years ago, but I've been able to alter and adjust my dreams and what I'm seeing and everything else since I was like 5 or 6.
Oh,
I've been able to do it since I was little. And it was just something I've always willed myself to do. So apparently I was able to do this back then. I didn't know what it was.
So we can do that in the third dimension as well. So say you've got some external conditions that you aren't particularly fond of, right? So you can actually, in a meditation or before bed or when you wake up in the morning, visualize the reality that you desire. Okay. So visualize that. And over the course of time, the third dimension has got to align with it. It has got to, because you're shifting your vibration. If you hold that vision long enough of your fulfilled desire, then it will naturally adjust you into a parallel reality, a parallel version of you.
Interesting.
Yeah. So I've been working on that. I've been practicing it, and I do recognize that happens. So I live in an apartment and I had some neighbors that were very loud. At 5 a.m, they were slamming their doors. And so I started to visualize very peaceful, very quiet neighbors, this maybe for a week before bed. And when I'd wake up, I'd visualize very peaceful neighbors. I'm not even joking. I had 3, a person across from me and 2 on the other side. All 3 of them moved out and I got all new neighbors and they're so quiet, like quiet as a mouse. So I'm like, I did that. I'm the source of my reality. And once we realize that, that's where our power lies, is when we can actually realize that we hold the power in our hands. We don't have to conform to these 3D conditions. They're just temporary.
Right.
They're just temporary, but we can shift it. But it starts with, we've got to imagine it and we have to assume it. And then we've got to switch our beliefs about it. Because if you don't believe that you can shift your 3D reality, then it's probably not going to happen for you. Yeah. But if you actually believe it and you assume, I'm sure you do this, you just assume that it's going to be this way. And then it is that way, right? That's the conviction.
Yeah. 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 So Sylvie's like, yeah, you
manifest. And I was like, yes.
Yeah, absolutely. Time for these people to go. I got to get my sleep.
These people it was so funny because I saw moving truck after moving truck. I'm like, oh, look what I did.
So when you do an EFT session with somebody, how long is the session? Just so like the audience knows how long.
Yeah, like 45 minutes to an hour. It's really, yeah. And I also do, so my session isn't just EFT. I do what's called muscle testing or applied kinesiology. And a lot of intuitive stuff comes up too. It's very select to the person what comes up. I've had loved ones come through. I'm not saying that every time a loved one comes through, but sometimes loved ones come through. I muscle test to kind of see what's going on. Like, is this emotional? Is it mental? Is it physical? What do we need to do? And every session is guided based off of the energy of the person, so sometimes we're doing tapping and sometimes we're not doing tapping. We have all these other things that come up, so.
How long is the quantum healing, like the hypnosis one? How long?
That's anywhere between 2 to 3 hours. So the first half an hour is we're discussing what to expect. We're going through any questions that you'd want to ask your higher self, when we get in there, your subconscious mind. Right. And then the actual meditation itself lasts about anywhere between 60 to 90 minutes. It depends. Sometimes, like the client I just had, we were in there for about 75 minutes and then she woke right up and she was ready. She was done. She's like, okay, I got what I needed. You know, where other ones, it takes me a little bit of time to pull people out of hypnosis. So it just depends. And it's all guided by your higher self. Everything is coming through that is in your greatest and highest good. And so it's never anything where I've even had some clients that were abducted by ETs. And they're like, Tonia, I want you to hypnotize me to see what happened. So I've been able to do that. I have a friend who she's had some Sasquatch experiences that she doesn't remember. And she wants me to do quantum healing on her to see if she can visualize like the face and the body and, everything and whatnot. So it's really just looking at that film roll and going to a slide. It's like, we're going to go right to this slide and we're going to see what we need. And then once we heal that aspect, we're going to bounce on over to another slide and see what we need to, heal there.
Cool. Squirrel moment. Ready for the squirrel moment?
Yes. I like squirrel moments.
because you talked about you're also working on the Bigfoot Sasquatch side as well.
Yes.
I know what my belief is, but I'm curious. And a lot of people on my show know what my belief is. Sasquatch. From this earth or from this dimension, or jump between, and this is kind of a crossing point?
I think all the above.
Okay.
I think it's all the above. I think it depends on what frequency they're in.
Yeah.
I think if they're flesh and blood, it's very similar to humans, especially, in the Sasquatch community. You have the scientific people that want proof, and then you have the intuitive people that believe in the multidimensional. I think that the sweet spot is believing in both. I really do. I really do.
I think that this is, so I believe that Sasquatch, Bigfoot. So I believe the reason why we see different versions of them, why we see Yeti, why we see Bigfoot, I think they're all different. I don't think they're all from the same location.
I agree.
Believe they're from the different dimensions, but this is, and the reason we don't find them, like a lot of people are like, well, we never find any evidence. Because they kind of get here through wormhole, dimensional, whatever you want to say to get here, and either they stay here for a while and they pass back to where they came from, or their loved ones come and get them.
And then they pull them through. And there's been a lot of stories about that where a park ranger will find a Sasquatch and then they'll go back to get some help and come back and it's like gone. It wasn't even there.
Yeah. So that's my belief as well. So
that's. Because you hear the ones in Alaska that are very angry and very, fearful, but fear is a lower vibration. It's a denser frequency, right? So I truly believe Sasquatch is going through a spiritual journey just as humankind is. I really do. And so there's some that have been alive for 3,000 years and they're very elders and spiritual. Right. And then there's other ones who are just born and they're mean and they're fearful. Who knows, but
their teenage
I also think it's based on your frequency as well. Like if you're going in fearful, you're going to attract in your hologram a fearful experience as well.
Yeah, because you're already anticipating that.
Yes. And so when we go out, we're always very loving. We're always we talk. Even if we don't know they're there, we talk. And then usually we get elementals talking back, which is really funny,
Right.
or they'll move things. We've had trees. We'll be standing on one side of the Jeep and then we turn around and there's a tree just randomly in the middle of the road, and we're like, where'd that come from? So standing on its end, just weird. So
well, hello, Nighthawk. So Nighthawk pops in.
Nice.
It has been my experience over 40 plus years researching them and working with them that there are 4 different physical types of Bigfoot.
Very cool. I know William's friend is with friends with my friend Angelique, who is on my team. So I think that's really cool. Yeah.
Yeah, Nighthawk and I are basically brothers. So yeah. So
I think too. I mean, I speak light language with them. I know Jessica's talked about this. I think that the Sierra Sounds, that's what they're doing, is speaking light language. I think it's a cosmic language that I'm not saying all Sasquatch speak this language. I think that many of them have the ability to do it. Some of us have been activated in our remembrance or our knowing of how to speak it. I do think it can cross over into the angelics as well. I really feel that we're even doing some research on Hebrew in Sasquatch, and because Hebrew is one of the original languages.
Yeah.
And so our team, the neat thing about our team is we've got there's Jess. We've got scientific people and we have the intuitive people. So that's what I think really makes it interesting, because we're learning from each other,
Yeah. I think it's funny how we say Jessica and it's like Beetlejuice. We said her name like 3 times. It's amazing. So
I was summoned. I was.
And Nikki says the same. She's like, yeah, I feel like you say Bigfoot, Nighthawk shows up.
Yeah. With the moment we went in, did you see that? We shifted reality right there. We shifted timelines. It's so funny you say that, because if I'm at night and I'm like, I'm going to watch a ghost adventure show, boom, I start getting texts from my friends who are into ghost hunting. Hey, you want to go on a paranormal excursion? Or I'll start watching Fred from Alaska, and then I get my friend Angelique. Hey, I just learned this about Sasquatch. And I'm like, I can tell what frequency I'm in based off of the people that are responding to me in my hologram.
I want to share that with Jessica and with Nighthawk. So basically, we were talking all about Tonia and her EFT and her quantum hypnosis and everything else. And I said, squirrel moment, we're going to shift into Bigfoot mode now. And 2 minutes into it, both of you show up. So we hadn't talked about it all night, but as soon as I start talking about it, both of you show up. So that was amazing. Good time.
You look at the power right there that we have, Tom. We just come into them right? But that shows you frequency and vibration, right? So we just aligned with Nighthawk and Jess, and because they're on that frequency, and we immediately just attracted them into our timeline. Mm-hmm.
Yep, absolutely too. And it was funny because I was actually thinking of Jessica earlier, because I was thinking, okay, I haven't had a show with Jessica for a while. I wonder if she'd be interested in coming back on. And I would literally thought this afternoon, because I've been out watching some of her stuff after she records it. I go out and watch a lot of it. So I'm kind of the quiet person in the background because I don't watch her lives. I watch them as they're recorded, so I really don't respond to them. But I was like, man, I haven't had Jessica on here for a while. And I still have to get with Nighthawk to set up a time to come on, because we were supposed to be on before, but stuff came up and we just couldn't make it work. Nighthawk, hopefully your family's doing well. I saw the message, so hopefully everything's good. And much love to the family. Hope everyone's doing well. So, Jessica, I appreciate that. She said she'd love to come on anytime. Fantastic. Because I had a lot of unanswered questions when we left last time. And I can't say unanswered questions, but a lot of new ones arose. So the last time I had you on my show in my head, and I'm like, okay, I have to reach out to Jess to ask this. Now I have to ask this. Now I want to know about this. So
it's a rabbit hole.
Right? So you know what I should do at some point? Here's a thought process. If everyone's game for it, you have to let me know. We have to make a plan to have you all together. But I can bring Jessica, you, and Nighthawk all at the same time.
That'd be really fun. Mm-hmm.
And do a group session. You know. So just a thought process out there to throw it to everybody, as well as coming on individually. We can also do a group one, because I can have up to 10 people on here at a time. So I can do stuff like that too. So just
down.
Yeah, I'm down. So,
well, and it would be fun to not just talk about Sasquatch, but Dogman too, because,
whatever
on my channel, I don't talk a lot about cryptids, but I'm doing all this stuff behind the scenes,
Yeah.
and enjoying it. And just as Sasquatch can mind speak, so can Dogman. And we've been having that experience, but it takes just how you, Tom, you can tune into the elementals. I can tune into those otherworldly beings as well, and through my clairaudience. And so, this is an area in the cryptid community that not a lot of people talk about, but I don't even know if I'm equipped to talk about it, but it's something that I am experiencing, and members of my team are experiencing as well. And so not all dogmen are mean. Not all of them are out there just similar to Sasquatch. They're just misunderstood. And so I think these are areas, and I think the elementals as well. I've had some mean and gruff elementals, and
I will tell you, elementals are not mean. They just don't have that side of consciousness that we have, because they have a sole purpose, like an earth elemental, is to heal the earth. So anything that stops them from doing that they're gonna stop that from happening. So we might see them as being mean or hateful or angry, but it's really them saying, this is my job, this is what I'm supposed to be doing, and you're not going to stop me from doing it. I don't hate you, I don't like you, I don't anything. I just have a role to do. And if your human existence finds that I am being mad at you, that's your problem, not mine.
That's your perception, because everything's based off of our belief and our perception of that, right? So, and I feel that way about Dogman and Sasquatch. It's like, if you have a fearful encounter, then it could be because they're trying to create that for you. They're protecting something. Or
I never thought about that, because you talked about how your clairaudience lets you basically hear other cryptids and stuff like that. And I always did elementals, but it really makes me curious. I kind of wish that a couple of the people that I was in Hawaii with were on here, because we came across what I would call a guardian when we were located in Hawaii. And it was not an elemental. I did run into a handful of elementals and a bunch of earth and wind and water and everything else, but there was a totally different being there. And I really believe it was a guardian, and I believe it was a guardian of a very sacred location that we went to visit. And I spoke with it, and it spoke directly to me. And I think it would fall under what a lot of people would consider a cryptid type of thing.
Like an Anubis.
Yeah.
How Anubis kind of protects the afterlife. Yeah.
And it was very much, it was really much something along the lines that I knew it was a guardian of this location. And the saying, Uilani Ku'ule says, yes, they were guardians. So good, Uilani. I was reading it right, because I really sensed, and they were talking to me. One of them actually made us leave the area we were in.
Because we're like the toddlers, right? Where they're going to be busting stuff up and making a mess, and so they're like, get out of here.
Yeah, Shin Nighthawk saying, Dogman and Bigfoot. Well, you had me at Bigfoot. So, yes. So thank you, Uilani, for confirming that they were guardians. Because I, like I said, I really know what the elementals are, but this is something, to me, much more gregarious, much more powerful. But
did you feel it in your head or your chest?
I actually felt it through my actually kind of all over. It really set my vibrations. Like, my vibrations went instantly high, because I had to reach that elevation in order to communicate with it. So my vibration had to take off in itself.
Yeah.
And in order for me to talk to it and to understand it and to hear it and to feel it, I had to instantly kick my vibration straight up.
Oh, high. And I've had that experience with some of the ETs that I've had contact with. And the realization is they're just us. It's just us in another vibration. It's just us in another reality. But we're here in the third dimension. We're at such a lower frequency, a heavier, denser frequency. It's hard for them to communicate with us without us experiencing fear, because we immediately go to fear because we're in those lower vibrations,
Right.
So
and it was
oftentimes, if you can raise your frequency to joy, you'll immediately have connection.
And that's what it was, because I saw it and I'm like, okay, you are not an elemental. I'm not understanding what you are yet. So hold on. And I basically turned up my frequency. And once I hit that correct one, then it started communicating with me. And it was telling us, so that was a different one. So Uilani, the one she's talking about that we needed to leave, that was a different one than the one that we dealt with, or that we met up at a location where King Kamehameha's temple was. So that one is the one I met up at the temple, and that was a huge guardian of the area. And that one talked to me, and it was very interesting to see him, because he physically was a gigantic being. Like to talk to me, it knelt down, and I basically knelt down to speak with me.
So cool.
While I looked up at it and talked to it. And it was a very cool conversation that we had, because it's just one of complete respect out of me. But that one telling me, I understand who you are. You're a good person. You're allowed to be here. I know you respect what we're doing and everything else. So it was very nice. It was very comforting to me. But it was very, I don't want to say overwhelming, but it was very awesome for me, because it was the first time I experienced a guardian like that.
Yeah, I bet.
Yeah, so it was very cool. And then the second one, the second one, we had a guardian that was kind of telling us, it stopped us from walking down a path. And at one point, Uilani Ku'ule she's with us at this point. See, I just like saying it because I can say her name. But she tells us we can't walk down that path anymore. This guardian is stopping us from doing that. And that's when I started picking up on it. But it was speaking to her and said, okay. And that's when it kind of said, well, you've been here long enough. Now it's time for you to leave. I'm like, okay, cool. And then the next thing you know, you hear a tree fall.
Yeah.
She's like, yep, time to go. So we're like, bye.
Yeah, because they won't do something physical unless they're kind of pushed to do something physical.
Right.
Yeah.
But it basically told us once or twice, your time's up, you need to leave. We're like, okay. And we still stood around and talked. And it's like, no, you're not understanding. And then finally it said, okay, go away. So
you're like, okay, I got you. I hear you. And, not everybody picks up on that, you know, but since once you start to tap into your intuitive abilities, which each and every one of us has, just, some of us have certain ones turned on higher than others, right? Yeah. It makes life a lot more exciting. I got to say, I've always enjoyed hiking in nature, but now I really enjoy it because I'm constantly being communicated with all these different, energies around me.
Okay, I have to ask, Ui. So Uilani, they always send me words. So is this Hi'iaka? Is that how you pronounce that? She'll let me know yes or no if Hi'iaka is the right way to pronounce that. So
is that one of the words they sent you?
Yeah, well, she said she said that's why we call our Hawaiian gods Ku'u or Hi'iaki. I believe that's how it's pronounced.
Yes,
exactly. Sweet. So see,
because Angelique will be like that. She will get names, and I don't get names. I'll get a scent. Oh man, I smell them all the time. I will feel them there, and then she'll get the name, and I'm like, oh, cool, So then we can kind of apply it's like a pieces to a puzzle when we're out. It's really fun.
Yeah, it was really nice because not a lot of people get to experience what I deal with elementals. But when we went out there to Hawaii, first I went with 2 other people, and we did a video on this, and even they were like, holy cow, this energy is so different than anything they've ever felt. And then we went up with Uilani, and she was like, yeah, this is weird. All the times I've been to these locations, the energy has never been like this. So it's nice because all the elementals were basically, they knew I was there and they were welcoming us in.
I bet.
And they were get through saying, hey, and they were basically showing off for me, which is kind of cool because we were in such a huge area like that, and they got a chance to experience it in an energy that they're not used to feeling. Even though they live there and they deal with it all the time, they got to experience a totally different energy, which I was
because you're a grid worker, Tom. I'm a grid worker too. And what I've learned, I would start drawing out symbols and different things, and I didn't really know what they were, but I began to recognize I would draw a certain number of dots on each of these different drawings. And I realized those are the number of people that need to be there to access the energy or the portal or whatever it is. So if, they could go there, just the 2 of them, and they had no experience, and then you bring in a certain frequency,
Yeah.
And then boom, you guys all have an activation. And this is what happened to us one time. There was 3 of us and we activated Mount Hood. Like Mount Hood actually had a little eruption after we cleansed a ley line. And so had I just been there by myself, I probably wouldn't have had that experience. But since there were 3 of us there holding a certain frequency, we were able to cleanse that area, and so, or raise the frequency of that area. Activate.
Yeah. And I think that's kind of what this was, because that's what Uilani's saying. My energy brought out everything and everyone. It was awesome. But I think it's because I brought a different energy that they weren't used to, and it triggered different energies in them that they weren't used to.
Yeah, you activated them.
Yeah. So they all of a sudden, they were all feeling something a little different than they were used to because of the energy I brought.
It's very true, because my team was like that. There was 3 of us, and the 2 of them hadn't had the same experiences that I was having. But the moment all 3 of us got together, we all started to have experiences, So it's like, I think it's all about harmonizing that vibration, So, you're bringing something to the table and so were they. And then you guys harmonized and it amplified it. It actually amplified it. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I think it was interesting because I have never been over there with somebody that I've never been over to Hawaii with somebody who knew about their own energy and knew about their experiences and everything else. Well, so I think that amplified mine because it triggered with mine. And then I think it did the same for them because they're not used to working with somebody like me that has that different vibe that I'm bringing over there. And so, and that's what she's saying. They were so curious. They were coming out from all over the trail. Yeah. We watched warriors walk along the old trails from when King Kamehameha was ruler, and we watched his all the tribe warriors and everything else walk along the paths and everything else. We can see the lights. I can see when they were sitting around. They actually led us to a place where Joe sits now to tell stories.
Oh, cool.
They led us to a place. And I'm like, man, this is where you're supposed to sit and tell stories. And I didn't know who was telling me that, but I'm like, you're supposed to sit right here on this rock. And it almost looked like a cathedral over top of trees.
Mm-hmm.
I'm like, you're supposed to sit here and tell the stories you tell. And he's like, funny, I've walked by this place a million times and I've never seen this place. And he goes,
a different timeline.
And he's like, who is telling you this? And I go, I don't know, but I described him. And he was like, and they were both like, oh my goodness, that is literally King Kamehameha telling you to tell me this. So the king was the one telling me, tell him to tell his stories from here about our people. Because that's what he does. He tells historical information about the people and everything else. So he was like, well, what are the colors? I'm like, well, they're black and gold. And he goes, those are King Kamehameha colors. So he's the one telling you to tell me to sit here to tell the stories. So that's a blessing for me. So.
And I'm sure there was a part of the element in there too, sitting on the rock. It could have been granite or some sort of a energy.
It looked like it was a natural seat. It looked, and it was a perfect spot to where where he was sitting kind of in the center of, and where he sat, you can hear everything like very acoustically travel.
Wow.
So there were places that were sitting up real high that people can sit. There were where people could sit down low to sit. So it's almost like when he's telling his stories, he's opening up enough that he's connecting with spirit as he's talking about it. And I could literally see when he started, because he actually told a story there, and I can see all the people. I can see the kids come in and sit around him. I can see that, like, everyone come in from around the trees and stand around and listen to him telling the stories of a history, of a historic importance. And I can see and feel all the energy of everybody coming around us when that happened.
Wow.
It was really cool.
That's really cool. We have a location here that we found very similar, but it was a huge tree structure, but it has what appears to be seating around it. And I was told this is the meeting place.
Yeah.
And so that's where they'll come, together and meet and discuss whatever they discuss. But so I do think they, and it makes you wonder, there's amplified energy in these areas, they aren't just thrown in a certain random area. There's a reason.
No. Yeah.
It would be fun for all of us to meet at the Montana megaliths sometime. Have you heard about those?
I have heard about them. I'm not too familiar, but I have heard about them. I just haven't researched them, but that is a location that Nikki and I can get to.
Yeah, and I think me too. I think because you're Central Time, and it would be really fun for a group of us grid workers to meet out there and see what happens.
What happens? You know? Yeah, that would definitely be interesting. So, yeah.
Or just looking at certain areas across the United States that that we could activate. I know here in the Spokane area, there's significant amount of areas that are very high energy, very potent energy. So we've been gathering, when we can. I mean, it's actually, we haven't got much snow this year, but we don't really go out too much in the winter.
Yeah. Nikki's asking, where is this located at in Montana?
I think it's Helena.
I think that's right. Yeah, that sounds right to me.
I'm hoping to maybe get Julie on my show. Like I said, I've taken a little break from my podcast, but maybe I'll start amping it back up in January. But I'm hoping to get Julie Ryder on the show. She's the one who found them, and she has fought the government to allow people to go in there because it's a sacred space. And she's taking people on tours to these areas, and she's had some fascinating. If you should follow her on Facebook, Julie Ryder. Yeah, she's got beautiful pictures of the Montana megaliths and people with portals and light beings around them. It's absolutely amazing.
Is it RY?
It's yes, RYDER, Julie, and you'll see pictures of the megaliths on there. She's come and spoke a few times here in Spokane, and I haven't had a chance to meet her in person, but I did reach out to her, and she said, "I'm ready to speak." She was just on Coast to Coast radio not too long ago, and she said she's being kind of guided to share what's going on at the megaliths.
Yeah, that would be awesome. Yeah, we'll have to talk about that at another time.
I think it would be fun for us to meet, maybe in the summer,
Yeah.
And not even that, we'll go to Butte, Montana too. You would love that. It's paranormal hotspot. Like, it would be super out there.
It would have to be summer because Nikki's a teacher, so we only are able to get out and travel over the summer. So
and in the winter, we don't want to be driving over the pass and in the mountains.
No,
we definitely want to. And there's Glacier National Park. There's so much to see in Montana.
Yeah, absolutely. So, okay, well, I think this is a good place to stop.
Yeah, this was fun.
Yeah, it was. And it went by really fast. I mean, we've been talking an hour.
We portaled right through that show.
See, everybody, now you know how come I wanted Tonia to come back up.
Right. You didn't keep up with us. We had a lot of squirrel moments.
Oh, my audience loves squirrel moments, and they very much appreciate squirrel moments.
Nicole's been here all along. She's been on our timeline the whole time.
Right? Oh, yeah. Yeah, everybody knows the squirrel moments, so it's fantastic. So thank you, Kathy. Appreciate it. So do me a favor. Don't leave when I shut the show down. Stay back in the back area, and I'll come back. Everybody's saying great show. Thank you very much.
I appreciate you all for tuning in.
So, just so you know, Stuart did warn you earlier. Where was it at? Stuart did warn earlier. I got to get up to it. Get ready to spend the day with this wreck of a person when I contact Tonia. So, at least he warns you ahead of time.
Oh, Stuart, it can't be that bad.
Okay. Hopefully you go back and watch it. This was a lot of fun.
This was a lot of fun.
So yes, Nikki's like,
let's do it.
Crystal.
Oh, there's so many areas that we can go crystal mining too.
Absolutely.
I feel like we could spend a week there.
Yeah. Nikki's saying I was here the whole time. So yeah. So okay, well, I'm gonna throw you backstage. Thank you again for coming on. Goodbye to Tonia. And I will talk to you in a minute. So. All right, everyone, that's the show. Again, if you want to reach out and find me, let me show where all this is. There I am. All my stuff right there. Facebook.com/StuffINeverLearned. You'll notice I did shorten that down from the full name it used to be, and I now own Stuff I Never Learned. And you can also find me on Twitch TV, twitch.tv/StuffINeverLearned, YouTube at youtube.com @StuffINeverLearned, and of course, Gmail, StuffINeverLearned@gmail.com. So for those people who watch the recordings and don't watch this live, if you have questions or comments or anything else you want to share, feel free to email me. I can either share it on the show whenever, the next time I run a show. If you have questions, I can reach out to Tonia if you're uncomfortable reaching out to Tonia yourself or whatever else and ask her the questions or give her comments about how you enjoyed the show or whatever else. So next week, I don't know, people. You know me by now. I don't know. Let me go out there and take a look really quick. Squirrel moment number 9. Squirrel moment number 10. Helps to open up the right thing. So, oh my goodness. All right. So next week we have Kelly Miller on. Kelly Miller is fantastic. I am definitely going to have to throw up the parental guidance warning for this one when she's on here, simply because it's Kelly Miller and she cusses like a sailor. And I'm not going to stop her. But she is a fantastic person to have on the show. She will give us all kinds of great information, share her thoughts and what she knows and everything else. And this is one, if you have questions, bring them. Start your list now. Bring the questions. She will answer them. If you don't know who she is now, go out and check out Kelly Miller on Facebook, on YouTube. Start watching some of her stuff that's pre-recorded so you know what she's like, so you know what you're getting into next week. Fantastic, wonderful woman. I'm so happy she's going to be on my show. So other than that, again, thank you for coming on. Feel free to like, follow, share with everything down here so more people, so we can continue to grow this wonderful, wonderful family, my audience that I call my family, and this community, because I really do believe that we help each other out anytime we get together and we talk. Simple things like this, like talking with Tonia, so many people probably learn stuff on this show that they did not know. But now they know, simply because that's what the show's about. Is it's a really fun show to talk on, but it's also very important to learn from each other and from our guests as well. So thank you again for being on. Have a safe week. Much love, and I will see you all in a week. So other than that, stay safe. See you later.